Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card, we are starting our day off with today. I love seeing this card and it's upright. You know why I love seeing this card and it's upright? Because we saw that a lot of the masculine energy was doing a lot of work, struggling with doubts, fears, insecurities yesterday. But what is the beautiful benefit of being able to navigate through those spaces or places, being able to confront those aspects of self that we feel that sense of insecurity on? That ability to navigate forward throughout that, having that observational point, being able to observe those spaces and places within, but not allowing oneself to become reactive in them. A lot of that pathwork right now for the masculine feels like that sense of really coming into the power of oneself. But what's beautiful about this type of energy, when we see this emperor energy and it's upright in this way, is that is not the masculine energy that feels like they need to exert that feeling of energetic control outside of the self. What did we just speak about that was happening for a lot of the masculine energy? A lot of that recognition point, navigating the emotional space, potentially even, and this is why we see that for a lot of the energy right now of the masculine entering the divine union frequency right now, that moment of feeling something, having that energetic expression, but not necessarily seeing it in the tangible space. This is that moment of the masculine truly feeling the validation of that sense of building towards what one sees within. So we see even now that a lot of that masculine energy is either experiencing that, and as a result, and I'll put it this way, they're not receiving that from the feminine, but the ability to see the healed feminine energy that is also able to navigate forward in that context, it is reaffirming the pathwork of the masculine in this way. Why are we seeing this? Because one of the things that we identified for a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now is just being in the energetic proximity of healed feminine energy is creating a template through which one can observe the past and recognize and identify something in a different way. A lot of that energy of the masculine building upon that reorientation, if you will, towards feminine energy. That is the masculine energy coming into that sense of energetic empowerment. And what do we see in the emperor energy that becomes vital and important? That sense of the emperor energy that moves forward, not in that moment of feeling like they need to exert control outside of the self, but that feeling of becoming a custodian within oneself, working in that act of energetic guardianship, if you will. So we see even now that for a lot of that masculine energy, this almost feels like this sense of energetically finding oneself via the shifting of one's own energetic perspective and priorities. For masculine and feminine energy right now, even experiencing, what do we see keeps happening right now? For the energy that's deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, are these spaces and places wherein the masculine needs to be energetically strong at every moment? Quite the opposite. We identified yesterday that there were a lot of spaces wherein the masculine was feeling some of that insecurity, was feeling some of that weakness. But what was that modality that they were experiencing? Having that reaffirmation from the feminine, having that sense of empowerment. This is feminine energy that's almost re-delivering those messages to the masculine, because these are energies that are working together in this way. So that is that moment where the masculine is feeling the energetic strength and security, not from feeling like they need to be energetically perfect, but being able to recognize that their own ability to navigate through their own securities, navigate through their own doubts and fears, not becoming reactive to them, but almost just allowing themselves to feel them and to continue forward in that way from a place of stability. This is the masculine energy that really feels like they're coming into that sense of the higher self, right? And that ability of recognizing that moment, it feels like there's a lot of stability there. There's a lot of security. So we see even now that that could be that feeling of energetic confidence returning back to the masculine right now. I'm also going to stress we're in the middle of Gemini season. So if you're seeing what I'm seeing here, which is the fact that these energies are becoming very adaptable, We've also got the Gemini new moon about to start. So I'm not surprised to see that like some of the energetic feeling that we're having here may feel like it's switching day to day because of the nature of the energetic frequency that we're currently inhabiting. While for feminine energy right now, that ability to effectively help the masculine create that sense of energetic reassurance, right? That modality of the feminine, almost amplifying that energetic message to the masculine, saying again, this isn't feminine energy that leans upon the masculine for strength. They move into that modality where they create a framework wherein the masculine feels like they can be their most authentic version of self, because that is the feminine energy that via their own energetic strength, their own ability to observe their own emotionality, almost sharing in the same feelings. The masculine almost being able to communicate something to the feminine. And in that moment of vulnerability, the feminine almost amplifying and articulating and saying, I struggle with that too. I similarly experience that. These are how these energies are helping each other through it, because the feminine is helping the masculine feel like that anchor coming in a space that feels like it's more intangible, while as the feminine seeing a masculine that's able to come into that point of grounding themselves even through their own insecurities and fears. That is the feminine energy seeing the masculine coming into themselves, and that's not that masculine energy that needs to be energetically perfect, but that is the feminine energy almost expressing to the masculine, even in their vulnerability, the feminine sees perfection. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, one of the things that we're seeing has to do a bit with that sensation of building into right now those modalities of really coming to understand what your manifestation goals are. For some of that energy right now, that's that moment of confidence. For the energy right now that's overcoming their own fears, that's that moment that feels like that resiliency as you're expediting a lot of those energetic processes. But we do see that for some of the energy right now that's just now entering the divine union frequency, as we articulated, if these were spaces and places wherein you recognized and identified that you might not necessarily share the same exact manifestation goals, but there's a little bit of overlap there. We see even now that energy is feeling like that sense of energetic breakthrough. Because what is happening? Why is the feminine becoming more adaptable in their manifestation goals? Because that ability to refine a manifestation goal in the presence of an energy that you feel appreciates, or is in that modality of energetically protecting one, some of the feminine energy is almost feeling like they're encountering that even in these moments right now, because that ability of the masculine to be able to articulate forth to feminine what it is that they aspire and desire, being able to put that forth to the feminine, that ability, that in itself, for some of the feminine energy, even if the manifestation goals are not the same, feels like the feminine energy is seeing an expression of what they're hoping to manifest in the masculine, because that ability in itself, it feels like overcoming a huge hurdle. And the feminine energy recognizing the amount of integrity and openness and honesty and vulnerability it requires from the masculine to be able to speak so clearly, to speak so authentically, to speak so openly towards the feminine in that manner. That is the feminine energy that even if the manifestation goals aren't the same, this isn't a feminine energy that's moving away from that energetic connection, because that's that energy of the feminine almost looking and saying, that is a good person. That is a healed individual. That is someone I can energetically trust, because they trust themselves, they know themselves, and they're able to articulate and amplify in a way that both helps them bring into what they aspire to create between us, but also is very careful and conscientious to make sure that I am not misunderstanding their own desires, their own goals, their own integrity. So we see even now that even that moment, even if these aren't completely the same overlap, there's still that flexibility now in the manifestation goals, because feminine energy is finding a way to continue forward in such a way in building some sort of energetic connection with that healed masculine. Masculine, for your part, that moment of personal triumph, that is also that moment, if you're seeing a feminine, wherein again, you might not necessarily share the same manifestation goals, but you're almost building that care or concern towards that energy, because through the act of being able to articulate what it is that you desire and aspire for, you're also expressing effectively that sense of energetic empathy in wanting to articulate to the feminine and say, I am someone that you can trust. I am someone that understands the value and importance of speaking and building authentically with another. So we see even now that even if these aren't partnerships that are forming, there may be very deep friendships and relationships if those manifestation goals are not completely in alignment. While for energy right now in separation, this is the energy of the feminine. Even if there's a struggling point right now, masculine and feminine, I'm telling you, this is the breakthrough of the energy, feeling like even if they're stepping back from something that feels like there isn't an ability to navigate or articulate what a manifestation goal is, there's that energy that feels confident in doing so. Specifically because for, again, the masculine energy, it feels like an overcoming of one's own self, like not letting oneself like come into that temptation of potentially moving towards a feminine that feels like they're not able to express what it is they desire, but also like recognizing that sense of adaptability that needs to be modified with a clear understanding of what it is that the energy wants. That is the masculine. That is almost feeling that sense of, again, even in that moment of stepping away from a feminine in that modality, that is the masculine almost feeling like they're energetically protecting the feminine in such a way to allow them that expansive point to be able to grow and to progress on their own journey. It actually feels like that masculine that's doing that work and making like the right choice that sometimes feels like it's the hard choice. While for feminine energy, if this is a masculine energy that's showing that resistance and being able to express what those manifestation goals are, this is the feminine reaffirming to themselves and saying that the healed masculine energy will be able to articulate upon what those goals are in whatever fashion that they are. Because even in that moment of potentially recognizing that sense of overcoming one's own sense of energetic courage, that is the breakthrough point that effectively the feminine is seeking, because that is something that the feminine has worked to refine within themselves, that they're almost just asking the masculine to be able to match them in that same sense of moving in a space of energetic integrity. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Knight of Cups in its reversal, because what we are seeing here and what we think is really fascinating is feminine energy is reaffirming, and this is where we see even now the feminine energy, if in separation, this is the feminine energy reaffirming their own affirmation to a certain extent of saying, not necessarily just building an emotional, energetic connection because it feels good, but recognizing that sense of seeing that sense of mitigating and recognizing and identifying where something is going prior to something energetically beginning for the sake of, again, preventing potentially experiences from the past wherein the feminine may have built an energetic connection with someone, didn't necessarily get the clarity on the manifestation goal, and then suddenly recognized that there was a bifurcation point between where they wanted to go versus where the masculine wanted to go, but that became very energetically painful because there was an emotional connection there. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, it feels very difficult. And this is why we see that, again, the healing journey can feel very energetically difficult, because there is that moment right now of the feminine energy kind of putting that energetic distance there. If there's a masculine that's coming towards them from a place of experiencing and expressing their feelings, but not necessarily being able to express the shape of what they want with the feminine, because this is the feminine energy that's almost saying the building an energetic connection with masculine, it isn't enough. It isn't enough because this is the feminine energy that says it needs to be mitigated and amplified by the feeling of understanding via the sense of security and stability that is formed in the ability of the masculine to be able to articulate that there's something beyond just the immediacy of the good feeling of an immediate energetic connection that is also shaped via the amplification and articulation of what one aspires and desires in the long term from building forth into that type of energetic connection. We're seeing even now that a lot of the feminine energy almost coming into that path of wisdom and understanding that some of the masculine energy might be moving towards feminine just for the sense of feeling that energetic positivity point, having that moment of feeling like the energetic bomb, if you will, that can be built upon an energetic connection. And that's why we see that so much of this feminine energy that is in separation right now is almost, again, that is the no that becomes the yes, because that's a feminine energy that's almost saying to the masculine, bear in mind, I'm not available to exist in some sort of liminal limbo space in terms of seeing where something is going to go, because that's that moment that feels like that's that point of building an energetic relationship, having all of the connection points that are being created, but not understanding the direction of something. That is a lot of the feminine energy, recognizing how disorienting such an experience can be, which is why we see, and this isn't feminine energy trying to force that spring. This isn't, and even now, if this was a moment where feminine asked for those manifestation goals to be brought forth and there was hesitancy on the part of the masculine, a lot of the feminine energy is just kind of stepping away from those same energetic connections, because this is the feminine energy recognizing the difference between being able to ask someone a simple, honest question and having that energy that is able to confidently articulate upon what it is that they want. If these are spaces or places where the feminine has pulled back and suddenly someone is delivering a manifestation goal, it's hard for the feminine to be able to receive that, because for the feminine, that feels like it's not necessarily coming from a place of authenticity so much as it feels like the masculine trying to deliver it forth because they're believing or seeing that moment of feeling like that's what they need to provide the feminine in order to maintain an energetic connection. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, that can feel in separation a little bit energetically disturbing, because that is that moment that we are seeing and identifying, if you will, that we are recognizing that the feminine energy is identifying the difference between the energy that comes towards them from a place of authenticity versus the energy that may just be looking for a little bit of energetic company. While for masculine energy in separation right now, this same path work that is effectively occurring here, that same ability of navigating, for a lot of the masculine energy, that ability to move towards feminine is being amplified by trying to find the energetic counterpart that effectively desires and wants the same things that you do. A lot of the masculine energy in healing right now is potentially even recognizing or feeling the difference of the sense of building around a feminine versus building with a feminine. So that feeling of energetic, security, that feeling of stability needs to be amplified in, again, the expression of a feminine that is able to articulate and amplify what it is that they seek and desire going forward. And for a lot of the masculine energy, I gotta say this right now, there's a lot of masculine energy right now that is in separation, that is recognized and identified that if there is that energetic resistance point in a feminine being able to articulate upon what their manifestation goals are, the masculine may effectively or energetically be seeing that as a feminine energy that potentially still hasn't been able to relinquish and let go of the possibility of reestablishing an energetic connection with a past expression of masculine. A lot of the masculine energy in that modality is just kind of feeling that to a certain extent. I almost feel like it's a little bit intuitive here for some of the masculine energy, because that is that moment that the masculine is almost recognizing and identifying that reluctance or that resistance may be coming from a space. Like we said, these energies are trying to identify the difference between the energy that is ready to move forward or the energy that's half healed. So even now we see that that's almost the energy of the masculine maintaining or keeping a point of energetic optimism, in the sense of saying to oneself, if this is a feminine that's not able to articulate what it is they want to manifest with me, perhaps the day will come when they will, but that's not the moment of the masculine saying, I'm not going to try to facilitate it from them. I'm not going to try to rush them or expedite them in that process. I'm going to just kind of recognize that it's there. And effectively, again, that sense of energetic guardianship is one that masculine may be feeling like they're coming into integrity, in feeling like they're doing what they feel is the energetically right thing to build a very strong, stable, energetic connection, with potentially even the possibility of building one big, like forward, when someone is energetically ready to heal. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is why we see so much of that energetic adaptability that is potentially coming into play. Because if we are recognizing and identifying here, if these were situations and circumstances wherein Masculine and feminine are sharing their manifestation goals. Even in those modalities right now, that those manifestation goals might not necessarily be exactly the same. These are the energies going into that pathwork of introspection, almost dismantling or unpacking their manifestation goal to try to discern what it is that they're truly seeking, what is at the heart of the manifestation goal versus what is adaptable, what feels like it's not necessary, what feels like it might be energetically extraneous, because some of this energy is seeing, in a way, there's some aspect of this that feels like they're seeing evidence of their manifestation being brought forth. And so that ability to recognize and identify whether this feels like this is the manifestation coming towards them, but in a way or shape that they might not necessarily have expected, or if there is a bridge too far that would indicate different bridges. This is that beautiful pathwork wherein we're able to better understand the self via the energy of coming into contact with other energetic possible counterparts to help us understand better our journey of self that could lead to greater alignment. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this goes beyond question. This is the energy that's already found that via V connection with the counterpart. And why do we see that this is the masculine energy? Feeling that sense of energetic security in relationality to their connection to feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because this is the masculine energy, as I said, that feels that sense of not needing to be energetically perfect at every moment in order to facilitate the energetic connection with the feminine. This is the energy of the masculine that feels like they're building forward on a connection with feminine, wherein there is room for frailty, there is room for flaws, there's room for energetic acceptance, because that's that moment that the masculine is almost becoming overly judgmental on their own self, and it's often mitigated by the feminine that's helping them kind of regulate and recognize when they're being too energetically hard on themselves. Feminine energy going through that same process, these are the counterparts coming in alignment with each other, because this is almost the feminine energy doing that work with the masculine and saying, I'm not even telling you something that's new. I'm telling you something that you have told me in those same modalities, in those same places and spaces. And that's the energy that feels it from a place of authenticity, because they're acting as clear mirrors for another, getting out of those headspaces of over judgment, over exhaustion, overwhelm. These are energies that help and lift each other up as they proceed. And that's not that moment that one feels like you are trying to change oneself via the energy of the counterpart. That is the energy that feels reaffirmed to find oneself in the process of going on that energetic journey. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is beautiful energy here. We've got our Tower in its reversal. I like this. You know why, guys? I've just been telling you, ever since Gemini season started, the Tower card's been popping up. We've been seeing the Tower card a lot, but it's been in its reversal, because that is that moment that we are seeing and experiencing, that is being able to look back on something with a heightened degree of clarity, that suddenly builds a sense of a re-perspective on something that may have gone negatively, or what you thought was going negatively at the time, that you're then able to reobserve as the positive. Right? When something comes into that moment that it feels like it falls apart, we can often get caught in that moment of devastation. But once we move forward on our own journey and we find something on the other side of it, there's that moment. It doesn't make it better that it occurred, but the perspective of understanding that can arrive helps us in a point of catharsis. So even now, what do we see is happening for a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency? This is the energy of the equivalent of the energy that doesn't feel like they need to be energetically perfect in order to facilitate a connection with the counterpart. This isn't that energy that's feeling that motivational factor of saying, like, I better improve, I better improve, I better improve. This is the energy that feels like they've effectively or energetically come home, because these are energies that even in their insecurities, even in those moments that they doubt themselves, the energy of the counterpart eases that overcorrection within the self that we're also prone to doing. It's too easy for us to be on our own personal journeys and to get too energetically hard on ourselves. It's so easy for us to overly take a lot of that external negative energy that we've experienced and start to internalize it. What is the beauty of these energies that are in the divine union frequency that they provide each other? These aren't energies that look at each other and say, yes, you're doing wrong. Yes, you should have done that better. Yes, you should have done that. This is the energy that says, that moment of affirmation that says, you are continually improving. Anything that feels like is a negative, it can move into a positive. This is the energy that, as acting as clear mirrors to one another, they're reaffirming their own commitment, and that is the energy that moves towards each other, not because it's difficult, but because it feels as easy as breathing. It's that moment that feels like the amplification of recognizing the energy that makes the journey easier as you go, and that's not creating that false sense of hope. That's acting as a clear mirror through which someone has built a sense of trust with a counterpart that's able to both lend a point of insight in those moments that feel like they need to be navigated more effectively, but also helps to mitigate when one is overcorrecting or being too energetically hard on the self. So we see even now that that's the masculine energy. If moving towards feminine in this way, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that feels that sense of energetic confidence and support, because that is that moment that the masculine moves towards the feminine, because that is the masculine that, again, sees themselves through the eyes of the feminine, but it doesn't feel like the feminine is viewing some false sense of self. Because if this is a masculine that has been open and honest to the feminine, this is a masculine that says, this is the feminine that has seen me at my worst. They've seen me at my lowest. They've seen me at the moments that I'm overly judgmental on myself. They see me at the moments that I don't have anything to give. And they always see me at my best. They always embrace me in any of those contexts. And that doesn't mean that that is a masculine that's become reactive. That means that that gives a masculine permission to be anything, right? That is that moment that one kind of rises in your own sense of self, trying to become one's best version of self. Because even in that modality, it feels like you're healing and correcting. That moment of recognizing that sense of energetic compassion that you're receiving from outside the self, that almost reaffirms your commitment in being able to find yourself in the process. While for feminine energy, that is the same energetic equivalent here, because we see even now, if this is a feminine energy that has seen the masculine, this is the feminine energy that feels this authentically, that looks towards a masculine that's healed and says, even at those moments that you believe you are your worst, you are your best. Because that is the feminine energy that is recognizing and identifying and saying to the pathwork of the masculine that your worst is other people's best. That's that moment that the feminine is almost again trying to show the masculine and saying that journey of the self that you went on, it doesn't mean that we allow for anything, but it's a reminder to someone and saying your own standard, your own integrity. Those are the things that the feminine moves towards the masculine for, because that's the feminine that feels the strength of the compassion of the masculine's love via masculine that holds that energetic standard, not just for themselves, but to protect, to move as a guardian for those that care most about them. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is why there's that adaptability that's coming home. This is why there's a bit of that adaptability that's coming home. Because again, if these are healed energies that are encountering one another on the journey, even if there is something here that it feels like the manifestation goals are different, the ability to communicate towards them, the ability to be openly honest and expressive about them, it feels like a relief. And for the feminine, that's that moment that even if the manifestation goals do not match, this is the feminine that almost feels the validation of experiencing part of their manifestation coming into focus. Because if these are spaces and places wherein the feminine never received that type of energetic clarity, potentially remained in situations and circumstances waiting For the masculine to like grant them the gift of recognizing and identifying and speaking towards a manifestation goal, for new energetic connections to be formed, and that is just being delivered to the feminine, asking and receiving. That is the feminine, that even if they're not energetically the same, it feels like a breath of fresh air. Because that is the feminine energy, seeing and feeling the proof of concept and saying, right here, it exists. The thing that I was moving towards, the thing that I was hoping for, the thing that I was trying to manifest, I am seeing it here. It might not necessarily be exactly in alignment to me. It might not necessarily desire the same things that I want right now, but that is not what the manifestation was. It's the ability to be able to speak openly and freely in such a way that it feels like it's the amplification of choice. So we see even now, for a lot of the feminine energy that's coming into the divine union frequency in that way, it allows for some adaptability. It allows for some positivity. It allows for some ability to navigate something that already feels like it creates a point of catharsis, because you're receiving something from a new energetic connection that you might have never received before. While for masculine, that same ability, even if you guys don't match manifestations here, it feels like you have hit a personal sense of like finding your own integrity, because there's that moment even now that you may be experiencing, that the ability to recognize that you and the feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, speaking authentically towards what it is that you aspire and desire with a healed feminine energy, doesn't come into that space of making you feel, rejected. It doesn't come into that space of making you feel, ashamed. It doesn't come into that space of making you feel vulnerable in that moment. That's that moment of saying, that's not what I'm seeking. Right? So that's that moment that allows for that amplification of the masculine to recognize the difference between feeling the active energetic rejection, which is someone, looking towards another and saying, you are faulty, versus an energy that's able to look and say, we want different things. That's okay. Like those things are okay. You are even if there is an alignment there, those are like your ability to articulate upon it creates that space of positivity. So we see even now, these are either energies that are being more flexible in relationality to seeing what can exist between them, or these are energies that are building deep friendships and connections while also feeling the affirmation in relationality to seeing evidence of their manifestations coming into energetic form. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, the ability for the feminine energy to identify the difference between a masculine energy that's able to amplify and articulate what their manifestation goals are, versus the masculine energy that's almost like trying to say in some unconscious way, like, I'm not going to tell you what the manifestation goal is until I've built an emotional connection with you. Like, let's just build an emotional connection and then we can talk about what the manifestation goal is. That's the feminine energy that's just downright rejecting that. That's just the feminine energy that's just like, why would I do that? That's putting the cart before the horse. That's the feminine energy saying, why would I connect myself energetically to like a horse if I don't know which direction it's going in? Like, why would I do that? Like, that's the feminine energy that's almost identifying that to a certain extent. Like that's that moment of the feminine almost expressing to the masculine and saying, my aspiration is not to build an energetic connection with someone if I don't know where that aspiration is going. And that's not the energy of the feminine that is requiring or demanding an energetic commitment from the masculine. That's the feminine energy that's almost just recognizing and identifying the difference between the masculine that's truly seeking to build into the divine union frequency, that understands and aspires the type and thinks about what the type of relationship that they're hoping to cultivate and grow going forward, versus the energy that may be moving more in that sense of just kind of seeing what's out there, just kind of taking a bit more of an approach of just kind of building a little bit, like, I want to say, like, not having the spiritual or energetic hygiene, if you will, and just building unhealed connections willy-nilly without necessarily recognizing or identifying or having an ability to articulate where they're going. This is the feminine energy that, again, is kind of moving into that binary and saying it's either there or it's not. It's either there, it's not going to try to force the spring, just going to try to identify if it's there. And if it's not there, the feminine energy, even stepping away from it, that's the feminine energy that almost feels like that is an accomplishment, because that's the feminine energy saying, I'm I've healed something that in the past I might have moved towards. While for masculine energy, that same sense of seeking from the feminine a clarity, an openness, an honest, an ability of the feminine to have the resiliency to be able to articulate upon what it is that they aspire and desire, and not taking a bit of that more like wait and see approach, if you will. That is also the masculine that is feeling that sense of affirmation, because this is a lot of the masculine energy that's coming into some kind of modality of recognizing or saying to themselves that a lot of this masculine energy right now, you may be going through this process where you're potentially feeling or experiencing these moments. If there's feminine energy that's coming towards you with a sense of like uncertainty, then what we see here is this is almost the masculine energy that feels like, again, they're potentially encountering feminine energy that's still too disoriented from a previous energetic connection. They're still in that moment of recovery to such an extent that it may feel like more like the energy is like the masculine's almost finding the energy of the feminine, like waiting for something, but like in the past, but not being able to articulate upon what they want in the future, because the masculine almost feels like they're encountering the feminine energy that's not so much focused on the future, but almost in that state of energetically waiting for the past to return. So we see even now that moment of the masculine stepping away, it feels like that sense of guardianship, because that's almost the masculine saying, I don't want that. I don't want to feel like I'm dragging the feminine energy on my own journey when they don't know where they want to go. That's a masculine almost saying, I want the feminine to be able to recognize and identify the direction that they're planning on moving on in the process of previously articulating upon what they've experienced from the past. Because for the masculine, the feminine energy being able to articulate what they want going forward is the expression of the feminine that says, I am ready to let go. I am ready to take ownership. I am ready to proceed forward on my path. I'm not in that space or place of waiting energetically for someone to return. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 8 of Wands in its upright. And I love to see this card right now. What we're effectively seeing right now, masculine and feminine energy. I mean, this is just the thing. For the energy and separation, one of I'll stress this, that ability to just move away from something, seeing something that feels like it's energetically problematic, starting to see something that feels like it's energetically problematic and just moving away from it, just being like the beauty and the power of a nope, like that ability, like nope is also a manifestation, like that ability of recognizing and saying, nope, not walking back in there, because that's that moment that we see even now, that is the energy that is feeling that value point in having experienced something robustly enough from the past that you can circumvent it. The beauty and the power, this is why I'll always say, don't fear the tower. The beauty and the power of the tower comes from those moments, comes from those experiences that we've navigated in the past. Because when we go through an energetic crisis point, if we are paying attention, if we do the work to observe, that is that moment that allows for that ability to identify and see the energetic signs of something that may be leading in that same direction again, and saying, no, I'm gonna go around that. I'm not gonna go through that again. I've been there. I don't want to go, like, no, trust me, there's nothing in there. It's just nothing, like, it's just not, like, that's that moment that we see, that moment of potentially feeling like you're energetically avoiding something. Even now, like, that is the energy that almost feels like the affirmation and amplification in doing this work of energetic healing. Because this is the energy that is almost like patting themselves on the back and saying, I would have let myself go through that. I would have let myself, like, had it not been for those experiences of the past, I would have let myself, like, for the feminine, I would have let myself just assume that we want the same things. I would just let myself assume that maybe if the masculine energy decides that there's a good energetic connection there, they'll reveal to me what the manifestation goal is. This is the feminine energy going, I don't need to do that anymore. I've learned that energetic lesson. And sometimes we amplify the learning of an energetic lesson by circumventing, repeating the energetic lesson. While for masculine energy, the same is effectively true here. If these are spaces or places wherein you may have felt like, again, you started to build with a feminine that wasn't necessarily able to amplify what they wanted, and then you felt like you were building a world of illusion around the feminine, and then the feminine got upset because they felt like they didn't experience or they didn't create the world that they were inhabiting with you. They felt like you cultivated or curated around them, and that led you to come into separation. Your own ability of seeing the possibility of potentially building forth in that way again and being like, I don't do that anymore. Both of these energies having the breakthrough, that is the moment of the manifestation of saying no to the past lesson that lets you learn the energetic lesson and move towards your yes. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, the communication is effectively the energetic difference that feels like it is the potential breakthrough. Because if these are energies that took that risk, that was able to amplify and articulate to one another what those manifestation goals are, that isn't an ending. It may be feeling like that's just the beginning of something, because that ability, and I have to stress this could almost be energy that's saying like, the conversation that we're having now, I never was even able to have with whoever I was with. I never would have been able to have a conversation like this with the energy that I was previously in a connection with. That ability of potentially amplifying and recognizing and feeling the easement in being able to navigate something easily that would have potentially created a crisis had you brought it up in communication in the past, that moment, even if you do not share the same manifestation goals, feels like your manifestation is coming into fruition because it is amplifying and reaffirming the pathwork that you're on in showing you how energetically easy it can be. By recognizing when you work with the energy that is committed on the same path work, it's like that's that moment that something that would have potentially created a crisis in the past feels like it's like you're just gliding through it. So even now, this is why we see that these energies, even if their manifestation goals aren't the same, they're either talking through, they're navigating it, they're trying to ascertain what can be created in the space in between, or they're building that sense of, they're still maintaining, they're reorienting on where they will exist in each other's experiences, because that's that moment of saying, just because our manifestation goals aren't the same, you're obviously, you're on the same train as me. We're going in the same direction. We're on the same journey, as it were. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is why these energies right now, if there is an amplification or an uptick in how rapidly plans are coming together, or even an expediency, if you will, on expediting a plan, that is because this is now the energetic equivalent that we've been seeing of what occurs in those moments where you energetically feel the manifestation, but you don't have it in the tangibility space. A lot of this energy in the divine union frequency is feeling that feeling of energetic arrival, having come into that space of feeling like they're in alignment with their counterpart, and they're just trying to bring it into the tangible space. So a lot of that feels like trying to get the tangible to catch up with what you're feeling intangibly, which is like the sign of a good energetic manifestation coming into play, because it doesn't feel like you're forcing it. You're feeling like you're moving towards something in an inevitable way. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Judgment card in its reversal, which is why for a lot of this energy right now, a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, if things are changing very quickly, it may feel like it is a surprise to the energy surrounding the energy in the divine union, because that's that moment that may feel like things are becoming very adaptable or things are changing very quickly. But what is happening right now is that's not necessarily a change point. It feels like it is an immediate correction that is coming through, because these are energies that have effectively found each other and they are reorienting, because that is that amplification that doesn't feel like it moves you further away from your own manifestation goal. It feels like you found the energetic empowerment point that is that continuation on your journey, right? That's that moment that it feels like, again, That's that navigational point that feels like it's undeniable and feels like it's inevitable, but that you can't necessarily anticipate until you've energetically experienced it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, that moment, that ability of recognizing in the connection to a counterpart, having an ability to communicate through something, even if there isn't an alignment there. This is the energy that is working right now on their own adaptability in relationality to their manifestation goals, because this is the energy that is unpacking their manifestation goal and saying, what feels like it's actually a part of my manifestation goal? And what are the parts of the manifestation goal that I only constructed because I was trying to energetically protect oneself from an energy that wasn't able to communicate and navigate in the same way so effectively, right? Like that's almost like that energetic dismantling of the manifestation goal to get to the heart of it. So we see that a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union is doing that type of unpacking. But what's beautiful about it, this isn't energy that's getting off course in the process. They're trying to recognize what feels like it is extraneous and unnecessary versus what is truly at the heart of their manifestation. While for the energy right now in separation, I have to say this right now, if these are modalities where someone is already kind of separated away from someone because they haven't seen this ability here, and then something is coming in at the last minute, right? Someone's like slamming the homework down and being like, here it is. A lot of this energy right now, if they're experiencing that, is really having a moment of difficulty, because if these are spaces or places wherein there was an asking of the manifestation goal and there was a hesitancy, and that manifestation goal feels like it's only arriving at the moment of someone's imminent departure, that is the energy that feels less like that is truly the motivation of the energy to express what they want openly, and more that amplification of what they can expect. Something that like one having to being able to only receive something at a moment that one, it feels like something is leaving. That sense of either like resistance or procrastination almost feels like a moment of the energy saying like, I need to accept that that's how it will always be if I'm experiencing it as such, unless someone has a very good energetic reason to try to amplify why that may be something that feels like it required an energetic exception. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Emperor card and our Knight of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Hierophant in its reversal. So even now, this is why I got to tell you, a lot of this energy right now in separation, like access point via the an ability to communicate what type of energetic relationship that you are seeking via the counterpart. That's just happening across masculine and feminine energy right now. Simply because there is a moment right now, the feminine energy is going through that process of recognizing they're not moving towards masculine with the assumption that the masculine desires the same things that the feminine desires. This is simply the feminine energy continuing. This is why even now, if the feminine energy is separating or moving away from something here, this is the feminine energy feeling validated to do so. Because this is the feminine energy that's learning the energetic lesson, saying if the masculine cannot articulate on what it is that they aspire for in commitment, I'm not going to assume that we want the same things. I'm going to assume that if they're not able to articulate on what it is that they want in energetic commitment, then they don't know what they want in energetic commitment, or they're not willing to speak towards it. And that's just the feminine energy having, and it feels, again, it does feel like to a certain extent, this is why it feels like a point or pathwork of a bit of energetic resiliency here. Because we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy going through that process, it does feel like a sense of like recognizing that in some cases that might be the result of a masculine that hasn't overcome their own sense of energetic confidence in order to express and amplify what they truly want with the feminine. But this is also the feminine energy that's almost reaffirming to themselves and saying that even in that modality, the masculine energy being able to find the energetic confidence to do so isn't facilitated by the feminine just assuming on the part of the masculine, because that's almost the feminine energy that's almost reaffirming their own pathwork and saying, I'm not taking on the role of being an energetic mind reader in relationality to what the masculine is feeling. Like, that's a feminine energy saying, I'm not going to build forward in a relationship that requires me to be able to have to like read the mind of the masculine. That's just the feminine energy that says like the masculine needs to be able to articulate upon what it is they desire in order to facilitate whether there is some ability to build forward into some kind of connection. Well, for masculine, the same is true. This is the masculine that's feeling that affirmation and saying to themselves, if this is a feminine that has an ability to speak towards the past, but an inability to be able to articulate upon what they want going forward, that's a lot of the masculine energy, seeing the feminine in that modality and saying, I don't think this feminine energy is ready to let go of the past. I think that this is a feminine energy that's trying to keep themselves adaptable and not over-promising to the future, because there's still some hope and expectation of hoping that some masculine energy from the past will return in a way that they'll be able to build forth into some kind of new connection. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is why we see this adaptability here. I told you, it's that adaptability, but that adaptability point is readdressing and reaffirming and reinvestigating your manifestation. Because if you're seeing something here in a way that you haven't seen it before, it almost is creating a context through which you're observing your manifestation goal, recognizing energy that may require a different manifestation. Because in a way, for some of the feminine energy, if you're experiencing this, you feel like in a way some of your manifestation is coming into fruition here. While for masculine energy, that's that same moment has to do with that adaptability point. Because while we see here again, that moment of adaptability is the masculine being very conscientious of making sure that they're not drifting away from their own integrity in trying to meet the feminine just for the sake of being able to propel a relationship forward. Masculine and feminine energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is why the energy is moving with such expediency right now, because this is that moment that we feel a lot of the energy is so deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. The connection that you feel is intangible. It defies the energy that can be articulated. You're trying to ground it into the reality of the circumstance or situation. But we see even now that modality can sometimes feel overwhelming, which is why we see even now that is almost motivating a lot of the masculine energy into that feeling of like more directed action, because this is the masculine, even in these moments while they're trying to navigate the intangible space, is almost saying to themselves, I'd feel a lot better if it was tangible. Like, I'd feel a lot better if it was tangible. While for the feminine, seeing a masculine in that modality, like that almost feels like the amplification of the security of the feminine. Because that is almost showing the feminine that expression of how it feels when a masculine feels the confidence in knowing what they energetically want, and that need and desire to be able to energetically secure it in the physical space when they recognize and understand what they're energetically feeling. So, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Tower card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Look at these cards together. We've got here our Queen of Swords. So we see even now, like a lot of that energetic beauty that we're seeing here, a lot of this has to do, again, with the gift that these energies provide each other in the context and helping each other become better versions of themselves. And when I say better versions of themselves, I don't mean someone changing themselves for the sake of matching a counterpart. We're seeing even now that these are energies that feel safe to be their own authentic expression of one another. For the masculine, being able to build forth with the feminine, that you feel that even in your vulnerability and weakness, that is a moment that the masculine comes towards the feminine, because that's the masculine. If that's a feminine energy, that we see here that even in those vulnerabilities, the feminine is able to navigate it. It doesn't feel like it rocks the feminine. It feels like that's the feminine that's there, that they can feel that sense of relying upon. That is that masculine energy that is feeling like they've found the energetic counterpart in the feminine, because that is the masculine that feels safe to be their most authentic, vulnerable version of self with the feminine, that creates an environment wherein they recognize that when the masculine feels like they're weak, the feminine will become strong. Right? That isn't a feminine that just adapts and acclimates to where the masculine is. This is a masculine that recognizes the valuation point of a feminine that has come into their own self, because that is the feminine energy that is being given the opportunity to energetically care for the masculine in those moments. So we see even now, that is the masculine that's going through that dual pathwork of recognizing that their own ability to allow themselves to be vulnerable towards feminine has given the masculine the feminine the opportunity to show the masculine that they're safe in that modality. That is that, I told you, that trust fall effect, that ability of allowing that moment of healing to such a degree that you allow for that expression of vulnerability to be able to heal something in such a way that you haven't energetically experienced it before. While for the feminine, that ability of seeing the masculine come towards the feminine in such a state or space that the masculine feels like they can be vulnerable, feels like they can take their armor off, that is the feminine energy that becomes very energetically protective of that, because that is the feminine energy that, again, values the gift of the masculine, showing them all sides of themselves. And we see even now, like, that is that energy that moves towards one another, not because they're seeking them to become something other than they are. This is the energy that feels like they found the energy that accepts them fully in all of their expressions, for better or for worse, because that is the work of the energy that has done enough work to improve upon themselves, that even at their worst, the energy that is the counterpart feels like they are at their best. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is why there's an adaptability point. This is why the energy right now is looking towards one another, and suddenly they feel like they need to re-navigate their own manifestation goals, because some of those manifestation goals might be less based, and this is what we discover, on what you truly desire versus what you may have experienced in the past. So what occurs in that moment that you energetically meet someone who seems like they're more healed than anyone else that you've energetically met before? Then suddenly any of the manifestation goals that you had, they might need to be readdressed. They may need to be reconsidered, because you're seeing something from a different perspective. Remember what I was saying was happening for the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, and now that lesson is filtering through? The idea and aspiration of experiencing counterpart energy that you haven't experienced to such a degree, being healed to that level before, suddenly makes you reconsider and reopen something in such a way that you're re-navigating your own path and your own direction, asking oneself how much of your manifestation is actually truly what you want versus how much of that manifestation was built upon the architecture of what you previously experienced thus far. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is why the energy is enforcing the spring. This is the energy that's just in that masculine and feminine, almost reminding and reaffirming themselves the type of energy that they're trying to manifest at this time. And if there's that modality wherein this energy isn't seeing the expression of that quality and characteristic of being able to articulate upon a manifestation goal here, this is not the energy that is trying to push that forward, or nor is it trying to wait, because again, the feminine energy, not building into a world of assumption, not saying, well, it's not there, it's not the manifestation, like the articulation of the manifestation is not there, but maybe if I give it a little bit more, maybe if I give it a little bit more time, maybe if I give it a little bit more energy, maybe if I give it a little more bandwidth, the energy will change and provide that. That's the feminine going, I'm doing it again. That's the feminine catching their own energetic lesson, saying, I'm doing it again. I'm building towards potential as opposed to what I can practically see. So feminine energy, I'm telling you even now, the feminine catching themselves, beginning to go, I could, and going, I'm not good. Nope, I'm doing it again. That is that moment of the feminine recognizing the valuation of their own resilience, because the possibility is there and they're going, no, I'm not doing that anymore, right? Because that's the feminine avoiding the potential energetic crisis through which they're healing from. While for masculine, if that was a moment of the masculine having that ability, that's the masculine almost reaffirming and saying, I'm looking for the feminine energy I can build with, not build around. That's a masculine saying, I want the feminine energy to know what they want, because when the feminine energy knows what they want, it is safe enough for me to be my most vulnerable self, because that comes from a place of the energetic resilience that allows the masculine to be vulnerable. So we see even now these energies, seeing the possibility of potentially reapproaching an energetic lesson, but the ability of kind of stepping back and going, I'm not going down that road again. That is that moment that feels like it is a breakthrough. Continuing to get for clarification on these cards right now, between our Tower card in its reversal and our Eight of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Wands, and this is what we mean with the energy and separation. I gotta say it even now. If these were spaces or places wherein a manifestation goal was asked for and was not received expediently, if there was reluctance, if there was resistance, if there was trepidation, I see that for a lot of this energy right now, if it comes after the fact, if it comes after it feels like someone is moving forward, a lot of that energy is also still saying, like, I can't. Because there's a big difference between the expression or the feeling of an easy communication channel, being able to ask a simple question and receive a simple answer. And if this is energy that feels like there was a vacillation point, or that feels like they're delivering something after someone has already made the determination point to move forward, that is the energy that feels less like they're receiving the authentic manifestation goal, and more someone who is just trying to keep someone there. Someone's trying to bring someone back. Someone's trying to hold them, like pull them back in, by almost trying to articulate what they think someone wants to energetically hear, instead of speaking from a place of integrity, openness, honesty, and clarity. And so for a lot of the energy in that modality, even experiencing that to some degree, it either requires an explanation, like the energy looking at someone and trying to build that sense of recognizing what the delay was, or observing and saying, you're trying to bring something forward here, not because you actually feel it, but more from that sense of trying to hold on to something and not see it, like not see what was starting to shape, come back down to a conclusion point. And so we see even now that a lot of that energy may be kind of like there may be communication about this right now for some of the energy and separation. But what's intriguing about it is it doesn't feel so much like the energy is trying to convince someone to come forward in a way that they aren't. They're almost just stating politely like why they're effectively like moving forward, if you will. I'm not surprised to see so much of this communication right now in Gemini season, particularly with the Gemini full new moon coming up, because that's a lot of that, like, what I'll put it this way, like feels like it's changing very quickly, but is actually feels like the culmination of a lot of path work, right? So masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency right now. What we're effectively identifying and recognizing is this is the energy that is feeling more adaptable. But again, this is very different because this is not energy. It may look a lot like the same on the outside, right? There's a difference between being adaptable, being able to change and shift to whatever you want for the sake of moving towards a counterpart, versus experiencing something that feels like the qualities, the characteristics of another energy, recognizing that there is an overlap between what you desire versus what another energy desires, and then asking oneself, going through that path of introspection to say, is there like a place here that my manifestation can shift? Or is this a place that is firm? Is that something that feels like that there's no leniency, there's no giveaway, there's no flexibility there? So we see even now those energies, the ability of even talking openly towards those things in such a way, built upon a discussion about where you are going, that in itself immediately allows for that feeling of validation, because it feels like even that is creating a breakthrough in terms of how easy something can be when energy is committed on the path of healing and making something energetically simple. While for masculine and that's the energy that appreciates how much work it takes to make something so energetically simple. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is the energy, or this is like the element of surprise. This is almost this energy moving very, very rapidly. And like really the energy, like it's like the energy around the energy in the divine union frequency, just trying to catch up, because this energy is like moving with so much motivation at this point, because there's like, it's that undeniability factor. So even now that could be more like feeling like that sense of like you're moving in this direction, and like reality's just kind of feeling like it's got to catch up, because you're doing all of this work right now to try to bring the tangible to match what you're feeling energetically. And having to explain that to those around you, like that might be the big hurdle. Continuing to get the clarification point between our Eight of Wands in its upright and our Judgment card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Empress in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. This is how we see and recognize so much of this energy is working through these processes, that at the same time that all of this is happening, it's also creating these points or these spaces or places wherein masculine and this is, I'm going to say it even now, this is a little bit of that. Like, I want to just tell everybody, I want you to be a little mindful about how you are speaking right now. Because even here, we see that this is a lot of energy that may be changing their perspective on like for the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. The ability of moving forward with such resolve right now, that amplification of path work, it can, I want to say, the combination of the Gemini, okay, yeah, that's it, thank you. The combination of the Gemini energy and the Gemini new moon can create a level or degree of intolerance for what you might necessarily sometimes have more patience for. There's a little bit of this energy here, because that's that moment. And this is and this is also with the amplification of the Sagittarius full moon, still like kind of on the heels of all of this, that the energy's moving with so much so much momentum, if you will, that if energy comes, like if there's energy around the divine union frequency that feels like it is coming through in such a way that it's trying to curtail or trying to impede or trying to impede something there, it's too easy for the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency to take that energetically personally, because it almost feels like that sense of that confidence that you're moving towards. Like what happens is, like, imagine like a freight train. Like, I want to put it this way, like imagine a freight train, and then imagine someone standing in front of it and being like, wait, I want to, and then like it's just like, it's kind of like that sense of like frustration, because it's like, it almost feels like that amplification that could potentially happen here of energy saying, why are you trying to move someone away from their joy? Like, why are you trying to take, like, why are you trying to arrest someone's joy? Like, why are you trying to take that happiness from someone to a certain extent? Like, that's kind of the only thing I'd warn a little bit of the energy in the divine union frequency about is being a little energetically compassionate for the energy around the divine union, to help them recognize and understand like why things are moving at such a faster rate, because I see even now that that could be some moments of potential miscommunications where someone honestly, authentically is trying to say something that they feel is coming from a place of authentic concern that may be misinterpreted, right? Because that adaptability of the Gemini energy can almost kind of like, it can create a little bit of that, you know what I mean? Like that kind of like switch getting hit, you know? So we want to just be a little mindful of that. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that energetic equivalent that even now is requiring a lot of introspection. And we see what's beautiful about this is that even in that conversation point, there is a mindfulness, because this is a feminine energy. If having that moment of reassessing their manifestation goals, that is doing so in such a way to reaffirm that this isn't the feminine moving away from what it is that they want, but almost again, that moment of what do we see was happening in a lot of these experiences. If there's communication here, there's a discussion between why the manifestation goals are such in the first place, right? That's the energy that's now starting to show each other their wounds to help them identify like what one's intentionality is versus what their hope or expectation is going forward. So even now, we see that there's that energetic care that's happening between masculine and feminine energy, between the feminine being able to articulate that what feels like it is a part of their manifestation goal that they held on to because of a hurt from the past, which could allow for some flexibility if they're encountering new energy where that doesn't feel like it's as great a concern, versus a masculine that's being very energetically mindful to make sure and to amplify and articulate to the feminine of not desiring them to move away from their own manifestations, simply to be able to sustain and build upon a connection. So we see even now, you see that beautiful conversation that's happening here with the energetic mindfulness of understanding and recognizing the other via the speaking towards what it is you hope and a desire going forward. So even in that place where there's a dissimilarity here, we see that there is a beautiful overlap that's starting to expand. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is why I'm going to say right now, if there's some feminine energy that asked for a manifestation goal from a masculine and the masculine was resistant, and now as the feminine's departing something, only now the masculine is bringing it forth, a lot of this feminine energy is almost experiencing something that feels like heartbreak, because that's the feminine energy almost looking at something and saying, now you've made something complicated, because now the feminine's almost looking with a sense of anger towards the masculine and saying, now I can't necessarily take that at face value, because I cannot tell if you truly feel like that, or if you're seeing what my next, like how I'm like me departing from you, and you're just trying to deliver this as a way to kind of hold me in space. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy experiencing that, I'm telling you, if there's volatility here, that might be why. While for masculine energy in separation, there's that mindfulness energetically here, because we see even now that that could be more of that quiet step away from a feminine if the feminine feels like it's too adaptable, because this is almost a masculine that has a hard time being able to say to the feminine, this isn't masculine that needs to say to the feminine, I got to be honest, I feel that your own ability of not being able to articulate upon what your manifestation goals are probably because you're still holding on to the past too much. Like even masculine energy that's healed recognizes that you can't necessarily say that to a feminine, nor to anyone, because that's almost the masculine recognizing and putting some kind of energetic judgment there. So we see even now, like that's the masculine energy that's almost proceeding forward and like just kind of taking a bit of a wait and see approach to see if that's a moment that the feminine energy may like effectively or energetically catch up to them at some point when they're able to articulate their manifestation, which would give them evidence that that is a feminine that's ready to that's fully healed or ready to move forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hierophant in its reversal and our Queen of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, and this is like difficult for, I gotta say, for some of the masculine energy, potentially experiencing this in healing, it can feel very energetically frustrating, because this is the masculine energy that even now, like that ability to identify and recognize that is a lot of the masculine energy in separation that, and this is why we see, like, this is the hope that we see for some of the masculine, if they're putting that sense, like, that's why for the masculine, standing in integrity here, stepping away from a feminine that feels like they're not able to articulate upon what their manifestation goals are, feels like an act of generosity and love, because that is the masculine energy, almost saying, I'm creating a space or place where I'm not necessarily letting this energy go. I'm building a space where I recognize that them coming towards me in such a way that they're able to amplify what it is that they desire is the way that I'm still keeping that possibility open that could happen, because that's the moment that the feminine energy is basically able to say, I'm ready to relinquish the past and move forward into the future. While for a lot of the feminine energy right now, this is more of the feminine energy recognizing and saying, some of the masculine energy doesn't desire commitment in the same way that the feminine does. This is like that feminine just accepting that modality and saying that this feels more like the feminine learning that pathwork of discernment. And this is the feminine energy reminding themselves and saying, if I don't see that desire to articulate upon the type of commitment that the masculine has, it's not a question of feeling like maybe if I wait that it'll present itself. This is a feminine saying that could be forever. That could be forever. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, that ability to articulate upon what the manifestation goal is, even if it's different, that is the fertile ground through which anything is possible, because these energies are either recognizing and identifying and saying to one another, well, maybe there's a little bit of adaptability point here, maybe there's some flexibility, versus the energy saying, even thinking and saying, manifestations change. Things change, like in that moment of almost taking that possibility of feeling that sense of taking a bit more of a wait and see approach. That's why we see that a lot of that energy, that is that moment that feels like it's not that one thing is ending if those manifestations don't match, but it feels like something is potentially beginning, right? Like that's that moment that feels like that is that sense of catharsis and security that we create in one another when we have an understanding of where we find one another. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep in the heart of the divine union, this is the energetic equivalent here of the energy. And it's funny because a lot of the energy around the divine union right now may be being like, why are you moving so fast? And this is the energy that's almost, again, they're moving in a way that feels faster for others but slower for them, because this is the energy going, I'm not moving faster. I found what I'm looking for. Like that's the energy, that's the energy, like looking at the energy around them, and the energy around them might be saying, why are you moving so fast? And they're saying, well, why do you want me to move so slow? Because it almost is creating like an energetic time variance, if you will, between like the expediency of something moving towards something in the divine union versus the way the energy around it is experiencing it. Right? The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is like, this is happening very slowly. I can't bear how long it's taking. And the energy outside the divine union frequency is saying, why is this happening so quickly? Right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Swords in combination with our Page of Wands in its reversal. And that's why I said there's that, make sure that you're like navigating your conversations here, because perceptions with this energy can feel like they're like very different. Okay, continuing to get clarification, here's that abandonment wound rising to the surface with our Five of Pentacles in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now, this is the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency. This is why we see, even now, I want everyone to be a little gentle in conversations today, because there's a lot, because of all of this, no offense to the Geminis, love you Geminis, because of so much of the amplification of the Gemini energy, the realm of misunderstanding could be very high today, because we see here that tempers are very short. There's like switches that can get hit here, because, and I'll put it this way, it is the feeling of the energetic impediment, right? So what we could see that could be potentially happening right now is energy that like calls in a point of question from a point of care, versus someone feeling energetically triggered by someone bringing forth that point of energetic care that could cause a reactivity place or a volatility point in someone feeling very secure in something, right? Feeling very energetically secure in something and then experiencing something that feels like it's just interrupting like that energetic feeling. So that ability to recognize and identify that right now is very important, because we see that to a certain extent, a lot of the energy, I'll put it this way, a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is feeling like there's a lot of that intangible, ineffable energy that they're working to secure and protect and bring into the tangible space. So that's why we see that it's a sensitive subject here, because that's that moment that can feel energetically triggering. I told you even now, because a lot of this is triggering particularly for the masculine energy, because this is very hard for the masculine to feel something energetically that they don't see in the tangible space. So just be I want everybody to drink their water today. If you have any difficult conversations, don't allow yourself to be triggered. Give someone the benefit of the doubt that they're coming towards you from a state of care. Just assume they're coming from a state of care. Don't assume that something that you're receiving that feels like an energetic attack is not just coming from someone who's well-intentioned, if you will. While for masculine and and again, it can happen for both masculine and feminine, because this is feminine getting very prickly and defensive of the masculine. And this is masculine that could potentially get very hurt and wounded very easily, because that feeling of experiencing something intangible that you can't necessarily feel or put your hands on here makes the masculine have to navigate some inner child wounds, right? So we see even now, just be mindful of that today. Watch your words. All right. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. I'm going to say the same thing here, because this is why I'll point it out this way. If these are energies that are navigating through and potentially even looking to see if there's adaptability in the manifestation goals, this is like walking on eggshells, because this is energy that is striving to try to articulate to the other healed energy that this isn't coming from a place of over adaptability. This isn't the amplification of the changeableness of doing anything to energetically preserve a connection, but rather something that sometimes can look similar to that, which is instead someone going through the act of introspection on their own manifestation goal by articulating the wounds, the insecurities that may be connected inadvertently to a manifestation goal that you might not have recognized and identified until you encountered the energetic counterpart that is healed, that is almost that validation of having moved into the manifestation. It's a little bit different. It looks the same, but it's different, right? While for masculine, because these are not energies that are departing from their manifestation goal. They're receiving their manifestation goal, and they're starting to get more adaptable and curious to explore what that potentiality could be. While for masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is why there might be some I'm telling you right now, if there's energy here, that there was conversations that were brought forth about the manifestations, and then suddenly the energy is bringing those manifestations towards someone at a time that someone has already articulated their energetic departure from something, from not receiving it. This could lead to some difficult conversations right now. And that's why I'd say even now, make sure you're not energetically triggered, because this is either a moment of someone speaking towards their own insecurities as to why they didn't bring them forth sooner, or this is someone amplifying and articulating the belief, the energetic belief of not necessarily receiving an authentic manifestation goal, but something that someone is just trying to amplify and say for the sake of trying to hold on to an energetic connection at all costs. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Wands in its reversal and our Empress card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with King of Wands in its reversal. And this is why we see even now for a lot of the masculine energy, this is hard because for the difficulty, I'm going to say it right now, for the difficulty of the masculine experiencing this on the part of the feminine, I will say if this is a masculine that's kind of stepping away from a feminine in this way, and it feels like there isn't that much of an explanation, this is why. Because this I will say this is a bit more of an impossibility vector for some of the healed masculine energy. Because if this is a masculine that's encountering a feminine that is able to amplify everything about their past, everything about what they've experienced, everything that they've gone through, but they don't seem to have an ability to amplify that feeling of talking about the future. This is the masculine that's almost looking at the feminine saying, this isn't necessarily a feminine that's building a connection with me because they want to move forward with me. This is a feminine energy I'm encountering on their healing journey, and they're just looking. They're in that space or place where they're almost amplifying that they're not ready to let something go. And so that's almost masculine, like, I can't say that. That's like the masculine almost looking towards the feminine, like they're going, I can't say that to the feminine. Like that's not something the masculine feels they want to articulate to a feminine, because that's a masculine that's healed that doesn't feel like that would be energetically helpful to say. So that's why we even see that some of that masculine energy getting a little bit more distant from a feminine in that modality. It's a masculine almost trying to create that space of the feminine to be able to find themselves. That's almost a masculine going like, I know that they're not going to understand this, and I know that they might be energetically hurt by it, but I hope that the day comes that they recognize and understand why I'm doing that, right? While for feminine energy, this may create more of a potential conflict space here. Because again, if this is feminine energy that isn't receiving that manifestation clarity, this is the feminine energy that just is effectively moving away from it. And what could potentially create more of a conflict space, if this is a masculine that's trying to bring a manifestation goal towards a feminine at the time that they've departed, this is the feminine energy that may get even more energetically upset because it feels less like it's coming from a place of authenticity so much as a masculine that's delivering something to feminine because they feel like they have to. Because it's like that moment of saying, I'll give you whatever you need in order to maintain the energetic connection. So we see even now that could create, I told you, a little bit of that volatility space, that clean slate, because that could be the switches hit. That's that moment being like, I just gave what you wanted, and be like, no, you didn't give me what I wanted. You gave me the opposite of what I wanted, which is not the clarity, but something that feels like it's being delivered just to appease. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Swords in combination with our Five of Pentacles in its upright. One card, please. Clarification coming through right now because, and I love this, the energy in separation is thinking carefully on maintaining healthy karmic connections. Healthy karmic connections. This is energy that is healing from unhealed karmic connections from the past. And the affirmation is, I refuse to create another unhealed karmic connection. So we see even now that is the energy that even in that moment that they're separating from something, even in that moment that they're pulling back from something, that moment or that modality, it feels like there's been an energetic breakthrough, because that is the energy that is potentially recognizing that path work that they may have got themselves caught in the past, going, I'm not repeating the energetic cycle. I'm being attentive and recognizing if something feels like it is creating a healthy karmic connection. And that is the amplification of recognizing whether you're on the same energetic path, whether you're headed in the same energetic direction prior to building an empathetic or passionate connection. So we see even now that these energies in separation, identifying and reaffirming that to themselves. For the masculine, seeing if there's a feminine that's not ready to let go of the past, just stepping away and saying that's a connection that one day when it's ready, they know where to energetically find me. For feminine, being like, I just need to discern. Not all masculine energy wants to be in the type of connection that I desire. I just need to use my discernment to recognize what feels like it's creating that sense of building towards a manifestation goal or not. Both of these energies kind of congratulating themselves in that moment, saying, you're learning you're learning the energetic and spiritual hygiene that is required to be able to maintain a healthy, positive karmic relationship, right? Because you're being mindful of it prior to something creating. You're not like saying, oh, it's not good. This isn't good. Hopefully I'll just hold on. It'll get better. Like the energy is being like, no, this isn't this. If it's not strong to start, it's not going to be strong to finish. So we see even now, and for the masculine and feminine energy that is open, communicative, providing that context, what is this energy doing now? They're unpacking the manifestation goals. They're talking about why they have the manifestation goals. They're parsing it out. They're sorting out what feels like it's truly the thing that they aspire and desire for, versus some of the manifestation that may be the result of trying to protect from karmic situations in the past that may have created pain. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, that unpacking, that gift of looking at each other and saying, even though we don't have the same manifestation goals, there's a space and place that we can talk through that. That in itself, like that is that tiny fire. That's that campfire energy of that spark that these energies are like blowing on to see if there's something there that can grow. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is why the energy around you right now that may have the best of intentions, you have to be a little patient if it's taking them a little time to catch up. Because if you're moving with so much determination now, and it feels like a sea change, then that's that moment that we're seeing that the divine union is moving with such rapidity that it feels like it's happening very slowly for them. But it's happening very quickly for everyone outside of the divine union frequency. So recognizing that valuation point in the amount of the way the time is working here, like that is very important, because this is actually saying to me that like the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now versus the energy outside of it are having a little bit of a clumsiness in the perception of time. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Five of Pentacles in its upright and our King of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. Look at the combination here. So that's why we see, I need to stress right now that one of the difficulties or hurdles that is potentially occurring right now for a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency is like, if you're looking around, you're like, what's wrong with everybody? It's because you guys are like, you are sharing the same energetic frequency to such an extent right now that, you know, what makes complete sense to you both, like what makes sense in the counterpart energies, because it almost is like unquestionable. It's obvious. For the energy around or outside of it, it feels like it's energetically confusing, because we're seeing even now, like a lot of these energies may feel like things are like around them, it may feel like things are changing very quickly. But for the energy inside of the divine union frequency, it doesn't feel like there's a change at all that's occurring. In fact, it feels like everything is like coming into that sense of energetic rightness. So anything that's like preventing that or creating a disruption point, this is why there might be that energetic confusion point, because that's the difference entirely between how something is being perceived from outside the divine union versus how it's being experienced from within, right? And a lot of it has to do with like the amplification of plans, the amplification of that energy, like moving with so much of that energetic determination. It's like it requires a little bit of that mindfulness, if you will. So that's what we're effectively seeing. Now for masculine and feminine energy that is coming like in separation right now, what we're effectively or energetically recognizing to a certain extent is for a lot of that energy right now that is coming into the divine union, that adaptability point, this is why we see that this energy is having that ability to be able to articulate and to talk about the manifestation goal, because the ability of meeting a counterpart through which you can at least potentially talk about those things with, a lot of this energy is almost saying, I never had that opportunity before. I've never had a conversation like this before. I've never had an ability to talk to someone so freely about these things before. And that is such a breakthrough that it is shifting the manifestation goals, because suddenly it's that moment of looking at a manifestation goal and asking yourself, is that something that I truly want? Or is that something, was I carrying a manifestation forth because of the energy that I was around at the time? Like that is the reprioritization that we see is actually happening to a certain extent. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is why the energy right now, the beauty of some of the energy in separation is recognizing something and not taking it energetically personally. If this is feminine energy not seeing an ability of the masculine to talk about what their plans are going forward, this isn't the feminines going, what's wrong with me? Why won't they tell me? Maybe if I change, maybe if I do something. This is the feminine that's not overly internalizing an external problem. And this isn't a feminine energy saying, well, maybe in time something will change. This is the feminine taking the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, at face value. Just taking it at face value, recognizing and taking it at face value, appreciating that, respecting that, and just saying that's how the feminine's just moving on. And that's the feminine that's almost saying, I'm not going to try to change that. I'm not going to try to adjust that. I'm just going to accept what I'm seeing and taking it at face value. That is the breakthrough for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now. And masculine energy, if this is that modality where you're not seeing that ability of the feminine, you're not seeing that ability of the feminine to be able to articulate upon what they want or what they desire going forward, this is the masculine. It's a little bit harder for the masculine because this is the masculine energy that's almost looking at the feminine and saying, I think they're not ready to let go of something. I think that there's a feminine that I'm observing that is able to express and to speak and to talk about the past. But if it's not being mitigated with an ability to speak towards what they hope and desire going forward, this is the masculine almost says, I'm seeing a feminine that doesn't realize that they're still holding on to a past. And that's the masculine that, again, the act of the compassionate masculine in separation, it's almost like not to call the feminine out on it. It's just almost like to step back gently and hope that the feminine energy is going to be like, when they're ready, the masculine's like, when they're ready, I will know. Final cards for today's spread between our Six of Cups in its upright in combination with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Two cards coming out to clarify right now. We have here our Seven of Pentacles in combination with our Temperance card. So this is really beautiful. This is really beautiful because what we're effectively or energetically seeing right now, for a lot of the energy and separation, I need to stress this. If these are moments of walking away, stepping back from an energetic connection right now, simply due to the fact that you're not seeing an ability for the energy to talk forward in relationality to what they want. This is the energy that even in that moment feels like it feels like it is the right thing to do. It feels like it is the moment of being energetically mindful. And for a lot of the feminine energy right now, the ability to not overly internalize an external problem. The feminine almost reminding themselves and saying, it shouldn't be my job to tell myself that I need to be patient and wait for a masculine to determine that there's enough of an energetic connection towards me to be able to articulate what those manifestation goals are. This is the feminine energy reaffirming and saying, the energetic connection that I'm trying to bring forth will be able to articulate what it is that they want. Because that is the difference, again, of the energy that is coming towards the feminine with the desire to grow, with the desire to build forth, with that idea of building towards a relationship. Not necessarily providing a commitment opportunity to the feminine in that moment, but at least being able to articulate what it is that they aspire for. That is a combination of, again, the masculine energy that is trying to lead forward to the feminine in such a way that they have that clarity from the onset. And that's the feminine energy that's almost saying to themselves, it's not my responsibility to force that spring. It's just my responsibility to observe whether that quality and characteristic is there to determine the difference between the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that truly aspires and desires for that type of energetic connection versus the energy that doesn't. While for masculine energy, that same modality, this is a little bit more difficult, because if this is masculine energy that has that desire to build forth, and they're not seeing that same shared amplification of the feminine's ability to articulate what they want going forward, this is the masculine that may not necessarily be saying to the feminine, I think you're still holding on to the past. I think that you're not necessarily energetically ready to move forward because you can't amplify what it is that you seek going forward. It seems like you're waiting for a past connection to come forth in a way that it's energetically healed. This is the masculine that it's a little bit harder, because this isn't a masculine that feels like they can amplify or articulate that to the feminine. But they're trying to effectively pull away in such a way that they're trying to help them recognize, in a that sense of waiting and seeing, or hoping that the day comes wherein the feminine may recognize and identify and be able to lead forth for the masculine with more of that sense of confidence in relationship to what they're hoping to build with the masculine. While for the energy right now coming into divine union, that adaptability space is the place that we see that anything is now possible. Because even now, if there is a difference in what you desire with one another, we're either seeing here that there are deep friendships occurring, or there's some kind of positivity in being able to expand upon and to reorient or to investigate those manifestation goals to see if there's an overlap enough to be able to build something fruitful. Or we are seeing here that there's a bit of a wait and see approach in that sense, or that understanding that while one's manifestation goals may not necessarily be the same, anything is possible in the future. So we see even now, this is that moment that opening up of the manifestation goal is a possibility through which any multiple different connection scenarios establish here. And it's going to be different depending on a lot of these connections. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this has more to do with that feeling of timing. Because we see even now that some of this is coming through in relationality to helping energy better understand what you are experiencing in the heart of the divine union frequency. Because what we're identifying here is, again, and this is why we have to be very conscientious in making sure that we don't get reactive in that modality, or not feeling like that switch gets hit. Because even here, there's so much confidence, there's so much assurance that some of this energy is moving towards in the divine union frequency, that it may feel disorienting to energy around it. So it requires a little bit of patience to help them kind of catch up, if you know what I mean. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is, we've got here our Four of Cups in its upright. So masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, a lot of this has to do with the amplification of feeling what occurs in those moments where you and the counterpart feel like you're very much in alignment in relationality to what it is that you want. It can be very hard to hear outside energetic opinions around something for the fact of feeling like it isn't, it's that moment that feels like something that comes towards you from a place that it means to be helpful, but it might be energetically not, right? That's that moment of being thank you for your input. But that's why I'm warning even today. I can see a little bit of that prickliness in someone offering something that, I'll put it this way, it's that sense of having something offered that was not requested. Being thank you for that input. I didn't really ask for it, but thank you very much. It's a little bit of that kind of energy. So just be a little mindful right now of recognizing that might be a moment or space or place wherein someone might energetically mean well, even if you're not in a space or place where you're ready to receive something, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is more of that energetic equivalent that we're particularly seeing at this time, that has to do with navigating through a manifestation goal and trying to observe the difference between what is actually at the core of the manifestation versus what you feel has more of that flexibility, what has more of that adaptability. Because we see even now that a lot of that energy is going into that pathwork of introspection that sometimes is hard because this is energy that is trying to identify what feels like it is at the core of their manifestation goals versus what feels like it's something that you may have carried forward because you are in that place of trying to heal from something from the past. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, I'm going to say it again, if these are energies that are receiving something that was not given at a time of energetic departure, that changes the context through which something is being received. So if someone's saying, well, I don't know why you're going, I'm giving you what you asked for, that's that moment of recognizing the difference between like asking for something and receiving it versus someone seeing the result of what not delivering something will create, and then them trying to mitigate for it. So we see even now, like that's almost that moment that may feel like it's a hard conversation to help someone identify the difference between asking a simple question, getting back a simple response, versus that energetic delay in saying something and then receiving something, and then someone almost building that sense of questioning and being like, well, I don't understand, I've just told you something that you asked for, and being like, no, you didn't, because the context is different, because you saw the result of not delivering it when it was asked for. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a couple of quick updates before we move on to personal readings for the day. First and foremost, I would like to invite you to our next tarot class, which will be held on Wednesday, June 19th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. That class will be a continuation of our previous classwork. So far, we have focused our studies on both the Fool card and the Magician. That all you need to do if you would like to become a part of those classes is become a paid subscriber to my Substack, gracestrega.substack.com. Your subscription will grant you access to each month's live classes, as well as the recordings and course materials for all of the previous classes. So if you missed any of our previous classes, never fear. You've got ample opportunity to be able to catch up before our next one. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we've learned or anything about your own tarot journey. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me, wherein we will be able to assess where you are on your own unique tarot journey, and I'll give you the best insights on how to utilize the classes and your own personal path work to best take advantage of understanding what we are learning and how to move forward in your own practice. Again, one of the things I like to focus on in this work that I've built around these classes is that I tried to create these classes so that they would be useful and valuable to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So I want to thank everyone who's already joined us on that journey. And if you would like to join us, you still have plenty of time. All you need to do is find me over on Substack, gracestrega.substack.com. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to be able to get our weekly newsletter, which contains my full schedule on when I am here live reading. It'll also give you any new information as it relates to offerings or events that we may be planning. Second of all, I would love to invite you guys to enter the giveaway that we're currently having, that we're giving away not one, but 2 free tarot readings. All you need to do to become a part of that giveaway is head over to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you 1 entry into the giveaway. But when I pull the winner of this month's giveaway, I will be asking about who referred the individual to taking the giveaway, or entering the survey. So if you would like additional entries in that giveaway, all you need to do is refer a friend to take that survey as well. Thank you to everybody who's already taken the survey. We are looking about doing some location-based travel retreats. I love to get your feedback. I've got a few ideas of myself, but I really love to get your thoughts as well. Thank you so much to those who have already entered, and I wish you the best of luck in winning. Finally, I would like to let you guys know that I have a few new offerings that I'm offering my clients. First and foremost, we're now offering tarot mentorship. Those are classes that are specifically designed and individuated for the student. I take a very limited amount of mentees on for that very reason. Those classes can be purchased either on an individual level or on a monthly basis, so a discounted rate on 4 45-minute classes, 1 per week. All you need to do to become a part of that is head over to my link tree. You'll see the link in the link tree. Secondly, for those clients that are now seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I am now happy to offer a discounted rate on weekly tarot insight. So that is a package of 4 tarot readings, 1 per week, 30 minutes each, that you can get at a discounted rate. I want to thank you guys so much again for these opportunities. A lot of these offerings that I'm now currently offering have to do with the feedback that I've received from my clients. So thank you so much. And I look forward to potentially working with you. Finally, I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And we will do this again